Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Monroe Consulting Group's webinar. My name is Munira Haranilia, and I am actually one of the executive recruitment consultants of Monroe Consulting Philippines. So while we are waiting for the rest of our audience members to log in and join the webinar, I'll be quickly going through the agenda of today's webinar event. So we will actually be starting off with a warm introduction by our Group Managing Director, Mr. Andrew Hares. Then we will be followed by Monica Villadot, our Managing Director for Monroe Consulting Philippines, who will be talking about the workforce and industries thriving during this pandemic. We will then be followed by guest speakers during this segment from an array of industries. And following that, we will be having a discussion by Mr. George Samaco, our client management consultant, on the benefits of recruitment. Our last segment will be on digital recruitment by Jerry Amores, who will be talking, of course, about the new recruitment during the pandemic. There will also be a Q&A segment towards the end of the webinar, wherein audience members can give in their questions, and then it will be answered live as well. So we also would like to thank our guest speakers from, like I said, various industries that have taken their time out of their busy schedule to join our webinar. Please give me a helping hand to welcome Ms. Jennifer Tan of Great Deals, Ms. Maria Isabel Bordador of Cord Live. We also have a video from Mr. Ismael Fisco of Press Reader, and also Mr. James Alento, who is here live as well from Next Bank Software. And lastly, Mr. Mario Glenn Isik of New San Jose Builders. So before we start, a couple of house rules for all audience members. All attendees are actually on mute by default, and only panelists will be speaking. So the chat box has been turned off, but if you have any questions during or after the discussion, kindly use the Q&A box instead. Lastly, this webinar is going to be recorded and is actually recorded right now, and we will be sharing the link soon so that you may share this with your colleagues and your friends. Now I would like to pass on the floor to our Group Managing Director, Mr. Andrew Hares, to open and introduce to today's webinar.
Hello and welcome. I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar on recruiting in the new normal. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a tremendous impact on people's lives and has thrown up a number of challenges to test us all. The impact on business is far greater than any of the previous economic declines I've experienced. In previous years, the impact on business has been that comes with the pandemic. The world just wasn't prepared for COVID-19, and the impact on business happened within weeks and in some cases days. We not only had to manage our business in challenging economic conditions, but also had to implement work practices to address the health and well-being of our teams, remote working, the technology that we needed, and how to manage remote workers and maintain their productivity. Aside from looking at the processes and procedures that we needed to develop, we also witnessed a high level of fear from our teams who had genuine concerns for their own health as well as that of friends and family. In short, we've all had to learn fast and react even quicker. I congratulate everybody in this webinar, as I'm sure we have all been pushed to our limit. The good news is that I think we are over the worst of the impact COVID-19 has had on our businesses. Recruitment activity has always been a very good indicator of the economy and, more importantly, the confidence the business community has in the future. As I look at the data in the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries, I can see the business community is slowly gaining in confidence and is now focused on how they can continue to build market share in the new normal. Today we're going to focus on recruiting in the new normal and the potential areas you can explore to gain a competitive advantage. We will share with you the sectors that have done well during COVID-19, the sectors that were hard hit, and the implications this has had on talent acquisition for both. We're going to share with you the benefits of recruiting at this time and how you might like to consider incorporating digital recruitment elements into your current practices. Now is certainly the right time for us all to be focused on the opportunities that we have, which includes a greater ability to secure talent with the skills and experience required to strengthen our respective companies. Once again, thank you for attending this webinar, and I hope you gain a lot of valuable information.
Thank you to Mr. Andrew Harris for sending in that video and for opening the webinar with such motivation. Now, our first segment will actually be presented by Monroe Consulting Philippines Managing Director, Ms. Monica Villado, who will be discussing on the industries that are currently thriving, the ones that have taken a hit, and industries that are currently transforming, and even the talent acquisition implications. The floor is now yours, Monica. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Munira, and thank you very much to everyone that is joining us today in this webinar of recruitment in the new normal. I think that we have approx 100 attendees, which is great, so thank you all for joining, and thank you to the speakers. That is very valuable to have them here. First of all, I would like to speak obviously about the industries, what has been happening in the industries in the Philippines, and the talent implication, talent acquisition implications. The first thing that I want to discuss is about rethinking, the concept of rethinking the workforce. Because it is inevitable that in times of crisis, companies will tend to retract and hunker down until things go back to normal. But it's also important to understand that things don't go back to normal now, they go back to the new normal. Hence, we see a lot of companies taking a little bit more proactive approach and being quite strategic when it comes to strategizing products, strategizing services, and strategizing as well the talent acquisition and development plans. As I said, we will see industries that have been thriving during this pandemic, and these I think that we can all understand very well. These are the ones related to sanitation products or e-payments, online, fintech, also diagnostics and e-commerce. And there are other group of companies or sectors that they inevitably took a hit. And these sectors are now, whether they are recovering or they are transforming as well. There are other sectors as well that will be rising very soon post-pandemic curve. One thing that we consider is important now is to understand that there is talent available right now that was not there before. So due to, for whatever reason, for layoffs or other reasons, there is a lot of talent available right now that is also highly qualified. So it is a good opportunity also to understand the movement of talent between companies and sectors right now. And for many companies, they can take the opportunity to see it as an advantage in a sense that they can pick and choose the key positions or strategic positions to onboard in their teams, and this way have a competitive advantage in the mid-term or in the long term. So there are also opportunities, and we can see that with the number of networks of recruitment professionals and HR professionals that are now very dynamic and very active with many new members, etc. Long story short, there is no mass hiring right now in the industries except for a few companies, but there is a strategic hiring, which is very important. Next slide, please. So we have many questions from companies asking us, well, how do you know which positions are key, or how do you strategize hiring needs, no? or talent acquisition? Well, we can see it with 4 simple steps. The first one is the most obvious one, no? Determining which needs are to be met in this new normal. No? And I think that we can see 2 types of needs or 2 types of key positions here. Type A would be positions that will solve a problem right now in this moment. Hence, this may be related to safety, health, online or fintech, right? And there are other positions that are a little bit more, it's not the right now, it's the mid-term. And in these positions, you have a hole in the organization chart in terms of mid-term plans. Hence, it is important to also think about these as key positions that you should be hiring soon to have, again, this competitive advantage that we were seeing when during the recovery phase, okay? The second step, very important also, listing down the direct benefits of these positions. In this sense, I mean the quantitative and qualitative benefits of the positions and understanding where it fits into your organization chart, okay? Step number 3 would be another very important one, understanding the financial impact this position have to your organization. Obviously, in terms of cost, hiring has a cost, obviously, and in terms of monetary benefits as well. So, is this key position bringing monetary benefits, bringing revenue, saving costs in the near future? Then it is, again, a strategic position, so it needs to be considered. Last one, it would be paying attention or taking care of the job qualifications and the job description of these positions. Now it's a good time to rethink your job descriptions, to understand that, again, there is qualified talent out there, and you can actually spend more time thinking about what you need and what are these key positions and qualifications. So this is it for rethinking the workforce, but now I would like to jump into what we were saying before, the industries that are playing a very important role right now. So the first group of industries that I want to discuss is industries that have been thriving during this pandemic. So surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, done really well during this period of time. First one that comes to our mind is e-commerce. With obviously stores closed, a lot of customers are going to online shopping, and the online sales have spiked. Worldwide, in many countries, we see a spike of online sales of around 200% during April and May, so it is huge. And obviously, this brings convenience and efficiency, hence this trend will continue. We can see also the implications when it comes to talent acquisitions and hiring needs. The e-commerce firms have increased the hiring rate up to 56% compared to pre-lockdown, which is a huge increase, right? And we can see positions on demand right now. Some examples: relationship manager, senior analyst, key account manager, and many other positions related to online sales. We are very lucky today because we have here with us, we have Jennifer Dunn, that is actually the administration and human resources manager of Great Deals. And Great Deals is basically providing many brands the solutions when it comes to e-commerce, because it's an important e-commerce distributor. So I would like to give the floor to Jennifer Dunn now. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share this afternoon. So correct, as Monica has rightly pointed out, e-commerce is one of the thriving industries now. Definitely, no doubt, the pandemic has brought e-commerce to one of its biggest inflection points. And right now, we really see the need to grow, strengthen our current operations, and constantly innovate as well. So this change in the landscape has also meant a change in our recruitment needs as well as our approach. So I think even before the pandemic, we've been actively recruiting, and we've really been growing our business. But the pandemic has really just given it another whole new dimension of push. So we have, I think, probably doubled our recruitment needs for now. So at present, we're actively recruiting a diverse set of talents But of course, the health and the safety of both our team and our applicants remain to be our top priority, which is the main reason we had to shift from in-person recruitment to remote recruitment. So that meant we had to digitize our tests and also modify our strategy a bit to work around communication challenges we encountered, like slow internet or poor network connection. If at all, our current situation has strengthened the need for candidate care as well as stronger empathy from our end because our applicants are really coming from different situations in life. I've observed that now compared to pre-COVID, we have a bigger pool of candidates now. And it has really helped us that we've always been clear about the company's vision, mission, and values. And also pre-COVID, we've taken a step towards also further strengthening our job descriptions, collaborating with our hiring managers for their needs, so that it definitely guides us in the selection of candidates. Of course, there's a big pool out there, but we always strive to choose the best fit for our open positions, not just a culture fit, but also a culture add to the company. So if pre-COVID, you were seeing e-commerce sales as growing in number definitely, but still relatively a small piece of the pie. At this time, the share of that pie has definitely grown bigger. And as I've mentioned earlier, we are at one of the possibly biggest inflection points in e-commerce. So there is a lot of possibilities. Definitely, we'll see more innovation in the near future as everyone's creativity is really tested and challenged under the current circumstances. And I could say that never has it been truer than now. The words of our CEO, Mr. Steve C., he always refers to the e-commerce industry as a sunrise industry where a lot of things can still happen. There's a lot of possibilities, and we are at a perfect point, a perfect opportunity to shape its best practices. And so we really encourage our applicants and also for those who are selected to share the same values that we have and to grow with us. So I think there's a lot of possibilities at this point. So that's it. That's my sharing for this afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jennifer Tan. I will be now moving the microphone to Monica. Go ahead, Monica.
Thank you so much. This was Jennifer Tan, the Director of Administration and Human Resources of Great Deals. And obviously this was a great contribution. Thank you, Jennifer. And I would like to move to another really relevant sector right now, which is biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. There is no doubt that pharmaceutical companies have been really busy right now trying to develop a vaccine for COVID-19. At the moment, worldwide, as of May 2020, we have 70 vaccines under development. Hence, the focus worldwide towards research into diagnostics, technologies, and treatments is spiking. And despite Philippines not being historically very focused on research, this is changing right now. We see a change from the side of government and also private sector. There are at the moment mid-term and long-term plans to support research, as well as the government is also more open to support the infrastructure necessary for biotechnology innovation or development. Not only that, but when it comes to talent, the country is now ready or has the talent capacity to engage in biotechnology, innovation, and research. So it is worth mentioning also that the hiring needs have really increased for pharmaceutical companies. We can see that with the hiring rate. The pharmaceutical sector had the highest hiring rate in April with an increase of 65%. So clearly there is demand of professionals in the pharma. Maybe it has shifted also depending on the departments, okay? And we have demand for professional healthcare representatives, safety specialists, medical sales representatives as well. And talking about this latest one, medical sales representative, we see also a shift a little bit towards more online channels from a traditional way of doctor visits, doing doctor visits towards, for example, webinars like this one. Once again, we have a great speaker with us today. Her name is Maria Isabel Bordador. Maria Isabel Bordador is the HR manager of CordLife, and CordLife is a leading company providing blood banking services to many markets. So I would like now to give the floor to Maria Isabel. Thank you.
For that wonderful
Hello, Ms.
introduction.
Bordador.
So once again, I'm Isa Bordador.
Hello, can you hear us? There seems to be a little bit of technical difficulties right now. Just one moment, please.
Okay, bro.
Feel free to talk if your
Okay,
microphone
can I be
is...
heard?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, can I be heard now?
Yes, loud and clear.
So once again, I'm Isa. I actually represent CordLife Medical Philippines Incorporated. So for today, I represent the healthcare sector. Okay, so I've been in the industry for 15 years now, and in the medical field, I've been with years now. So my take on this pandemic situation is that I know that a lot of businesses have been struggling since the start of this pandemic, and we're talking about, yeah, of course, we're talking about March, and it went on and on until June, and obviously, it has changed. It has impacted businesses all the more. And recruitment has been a sensitive issue lately since, of course, we've seen stories of many companies struggling on getting their talents and how to retain talents. So as for the medical sector, as for the healthcare sector, my opinion and my take, personally, my observation about the new normal and how it has affected the recruitment and talent acquisition needs is that I see that there will always be a high demand for talent. The sad news is that there is relative. I see the potential of healthcare industry since, as we know, healthcare industries will stay at the front of us, realize a lot of things. But good to make the right decision, the right investment, making some decisions, most especially the ones concerning health. And with technology and a lot of innovations are expected to come our way. With continuous improvement, definitely businesses should also step up and explore how digitization can best be managed. Many companies have transitioned actually from what used to be traditional, and a lot of them has transitioned to online. And in CordLife, we have embraced that fully. In fact, a lot of our interviews, a lot of our presentations, coverage, and screenings are done remotely. And I guess that will continue. In fact, we've been doing a few in the past few months. And the focus of healthcare is to really retain talents. And I guess also take opportunity of this pandemic to show how caring and how flexible your companies could be, since you can actually leverage on this, as you'll see your company as true and authentic, right? If employees are treated well during this pandemic, definitely employees will, of course, we're talking about employer branding and employee reputation here. If the best way in the few months, definitely they will see your company in the future.
Well, a lot of trend has been observed in many companies.
It seems the connection is going in and out. We'll just give it a few seconds. Isa, if you can still hear us, I hope you can. I think we will proceed. Hopefully, Isa will be able to join us a little bit later. Yes, kindly proceed, Monica.
Thank you very much. We had a bit of connection problems, but we really appreciate Maria Isabel's contribution today. Hopefully later in the Q&A we are able to speak more with her. I will move to the next sector, which has been quite important and impressive improvement during this period of time, which is online education, but on digital publishing and EdTech. As we all know, schools, universities are all closed and will remain closed for some time. Hence, online education is now booming and has a surge in popularity. It's not only towards children or students that are engaging in online education, but we also see that adults are also engaging in courses and content online, hence this sector is booming. When it comes to entertainment online, also we don't have that many options outside our home, so many are engaging also on online entertainment, magazines, and also very often reading the general news online. Hence, digital publishers and digital publishing industry is actually doing pretty well. And we see also some demand of positions, actually some positions related to online teaching, and some others also related to supporting the platforms, supporting these sectors like EdTech or digital publishing. I believe that Ismael Fisco actually sent a video to us, which is gonna be very insightful, and I would like actually to see that. Ismael Fisco is the COO of PressReader. PressReader is a digital publisher that has actually more than 7,000 magazines and newspaper online. Hence, I can wait to hear what Ismael Fisco has to say. Whenever you're ready.
Hello everyone, my name is Ismael Fisco, representing PressReader Philippines, a subsidiary of PressReader, headquartered in Vancouver, Canada, a world leader in digital technology, providing a platform for digitization of thousands of newspapers and magazines around the world. We are continuing to live through unprecedented times, times which will usher to a proverbial new normal, as you may call it. But what does this mean for us? In a broader perspective, COVID-19 pandemic has indeed changed the way we work, communicate, and engage with one another. We've seen and are seeing its implications not only in terms of doing business and running the operations, but also the human relations aspects in many varying levels. COVID-19 pandemic has also revealed to us our capacity and level of readiness to continue working during a crisis. That is our business resilience, our level of sustainability, our business priorities, core values, and even our culture as a company, as we've seen through our responses and policies that required much decisiveness through the last 3 months. As the adverse effects of this crisis become even more apparent to many businesses, not only in the Philippines, but throughout the world, we at PressReader, being a digital technology company, explores new ways and opportunities to thrive as a business. Our business development units in our headquarters in Canada had launched a number of goodwill initiatives among our existing clients to address retention of clients and expand our existing services. We've introduced new programs and ramped up remote access capabilities, which elicited positive comments from our partners, as well as the increased promotion of our services by them and the increase in the number of paying B2C customers. And that is all during this entire pandemic. Undeniably though, the situation continuously calls us not only to act quickly and proactively, to ever-changing times, but also to innovate new ways for us to remain productive, efficient, and effective, keeping the service levels at the optimum across all lines of business, including, of course, our human resources. As we work in these uniquely challenging times, we believe at PressReader that a sound and effective talent acquisition and putting the right people in the company are imperatives of sustaining the business. As such, we've maintained certain standards and best practices on how we go about our recruitment, given the limitations in physical interaction and face-to-face interviews. And you may want to consider these following tips. First, know and stick to your qualifications. Having the clear goals in mind, including the specific skills, technical qualifications, years of experience, and of course, your budget allocation will help you narrow down your list of candidates and focus your resources on what and who you really need for the position. Number two, expand your schedule options for virtual interviews. Consider that some of your candidates are also working from home during this time. Allowing some flexibility by identifying a schedule when they are normally off from work or are not working would really help you expand the number of candidates attending your interviews. For us, we've opened interview schedules either early morning or during the night when they are just about to start or have just finished their work for the day. Number three, require video to be turned on during the interview. Since it's difficult to build an impression of a candidate's personality without actually seeing them, at least having the video turned on during the interview will allow you to see their facial expressions, their confidence level, their manner of communication, including how they've dressed up and prepared for the interview, or in other words, the human aspects of the candidates. Seeing them on business attire could speak how serious they are in applying for the position, and of course may earn them extra points for the interview. Number four, use situational questions. Questions like, what basic troubleshooting steps can you give an old granny or a senior high school kid who's calling in because he has trouble accessing your app in his or her device? Or doing a mock call would help so much, especially when interviewing someone for a customer support position or for a more technical posts. Situational questions are also helpful in assessing the candidate's logical and reasoning skills, which you can contextualize based on possible scenarios in the work or role he is applying for in your company. And number five, consider available technical provisions and work limitations of your candidate. Verifying with the candidate if he or she is amenable about working from home or working on sites are very important, especially during this time when a lot of candidates are very particular about the types of work arrangement you have for him or her. By also having an idea of what current available resources your candidate has, such as the type of computer, bandwidth, and other devices, could help you explore a work option or arrangement for him or her. And number six, finally, give feedback at the end of the interview. Having done operations and human resource management myself for the last 11 years or so, and having conducted countless of interviews, I always see to it that I give feedback on the candidate's performance at the end of the interview. By doing such, this allows him to manage his or her expectations on his application and to know his opportunity for improvement. Also, by allowing the candidate to ask questions would clarify concerns that he or she might have in mind and help make a sound decision in pursuing his application with your company or what to expect once he gets onboarded. Having these best practices in place will not only allow you to save time and make your interview more efficient, but also help you find a candidate that perfectly fits your requirement. In closing, let me share with you what we say at PressReader, that we are on a mission in helping people discover the stories that matter. Thank you very much and good day to all of you.
Right, that was such a lovely video from Mr. Ismael Fisco from PressReader. Just a reminder to all our audience, please feel free to send in your questions in the Q&A box, and we will be answering it towards the end of the discussion. And I will be now passing the floor on to Monica. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Munira. So let's talk about next sector. This has been a very important sector right now, and it will only continue to grow. This is financial technology or fintech. with states control on people's mobility for customers accessing online platforms and mobile applications to manage their finances and to make payments has been very important. So this technology is growing a lot. As well, the government is also encouraging the public to make payments or handle finances through digital channels. And we can understand this very easily if we notice that, for example, food delivery services, they are also avoiding cash transactions, and they want the public to use e-payment methods. The same with transportation, right? So there is a trend for e-payment, for fintech, to provide solutions to this situation. And we all know that social distancing also and health matters will be with us for some time. So e-transactions will only continue to grow. Okay. We see that also, we see the implications also for talent acquisition. We have hiring demands of product managers, hiring demands of cybersecurity specialists, software engineers, application analysts, business development managers, all within financial technology sector. And when it comes to digital banking, we can see also the same trend that we were seeing before. We were saying that there is a shift from a traditional way of doing things, in this case traditional banking, towards an online or fully digital banking. So we see this with many banks. Just to give some examples, East West Banking Corporation is launching also fully digital banking, and also CIMB has also been pioneering in this sense, and many other banks as well. So this will progress, but we see a trend there. It is also just a little note. It is interesting to see what's happening with ATM transactions. If we notice, ATM transactions in May declined by 25%. This means that 25% of customers that were using ATM transactions, now they are shifting towards online. So it's a clear indication of the trends that it's happening right now. In digital banking and fintech. Positions on demand when it comes to digital banking, we see also hiring demands for solution architects, IT risk positions, application developers, risk officers, and credit risk related positions. To speak about fintech and to give insights on this industry, this booming industry, and also talent acquisition implications, we have today with us James Alanto. He is the CCO of Nextbank Software, so a great person to speak about fintech. So I will be giving now the floor to James Alanto. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James To. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Nextbank. What we do is we basically provide core banking systems to financial organizations from banks, cooperatives, pawn shops, lending institutions. So during this pandemic, how this pandemic affected us, basically what surprised me is instead of we're expecting a slowdown, we actually had an influx of sign-ups from customers, especially from the banking sector and also from the cooperative space. And I guess we might see this as something good for the reason that for the longest time, our central bank really is trying to push digital payments and people trying to open up bank accounts, because for the time, 77% I think of our of Filipinos doesn't even have a bank account. And that is actually the reason why it has been quite a full work experience for us. And it is also actually projected, no, and was said by our BSP governor that on 2023, 50% of the payments will be digitally based. And how has this affected basically our hiring in the new normal? I guess it has how do you call this? It has forced us really to hire more people. In fact, just for 4 months alone, during this pandemic, we basically hired around 6 more persons from different groups, from project management, from software developers, from implementations consultants. What are my thoughts are for the future of the industry? I really see this as a booming industry because it has really challenged the status quo, and it has opened up the eyes of the banks or the financial institutions to try to look for ways to make things happen, especially on the digital space. So I guess that's to summarize what has been happening in Nextbank. And of course, a great help also is having a partner to help us secure these talents. So because I can only see also the hiring requirements of Nextbank growing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. James Alento, for giving your insights on that. Over to you again, Monica.
Thank you, Munira. Thank you, James. Actually, there are sectors, as we said, that maybe are not so lucky or have not been so lucky and took a hit during this period of time because of the pandemic. These sectors, some of them are transforming, some of them are returning, some of them continue to be affected, obviously. So let's jump into it and let's see some of them. Food and drink. As we know, food and drink bars, clubs, and restaurants are all closed. Hence, restaurants need to be smart or again strategize their services and products. We see a lot of restaurants now moving into online menus, and also we see that food delivery obviously is supporting also this new line of business. We also see additional innovations, like for example, online shops coming from renowned restaurants with exquisite products. So overall, smart restaurants are finding their ways to keep the brand and also to get closer to customers, but there is no doubt that they have taken a hit. This has affected also staff. There has been restrictions in terms of mobility. A lot of staff, for example, living in the province has had difficulties to attend, and others have had to multitask and to be a little bit more adaptable and flexible during this period of time. Next sector would be retail. And when it comes to retail, we all know again that stores are closed as well, hence retail sector has been affected. We see right now that some parts of it, like for example, consumer electronics or maintenance related retail is getting back to normal, but still online sales is the safest and the preferred method right now. So obviously vacancies have declined for this sector, but probably in the future this sector will get back. Next would be manufacturing. Manufacturing sector is one of the most interesting ones right now. Several things have happened to this sector. First of all, this was one of the sectors that could operate during the ECQ with restrictions, obviously, but they could continue producing due to being essential industry. However, there was quite a lot of changes for production. For example, recommended by NIDA, for example, plastic manufacturers of grocery bags or cellophane shift towards production of PPE, essential products. And in the case of textile manufacturers, they shifted also towards the production of cloth face masks, for example. Also, rubber producers, they shifted also towards producing rubber footwear as well as gloves for the healthcare sector. So some parts of the manufacturing or some lines of the manufacturing have transformed, okay? And on top of this, it is good to mention also that during GCQ, so comparing GCQ to ECQ, we see that there is a hiring rate that has increased 80%. Hence, we are seeing the tendency to get back to normal for this industry, so for the manufacturing. So we are hopeful that this industry will be recovering soon. So again, we see positions high in demand, like for example, IT-related positions, finance-related positions, like account receivables, senior buyers, inventory positions, and also production analysts. Finally, I just would like to mention that some manufacturing are now rethinking when it comes to automation or automating production processes to also a way to avoid disruptions in the future. However, this is mid-term and long-term. So this would be it for manufacturing. And now let's move to the next industry, please. So let's talk about a really important sector for the Philippines. This is construction, infrastructure, and I will also discuss property management and real estate. Construction and infrastructure, obviously the projects were put on hold during the lockdown, but we also see that these projects are coming back. They are restarting again, and not only old projects, but also new ones. So we see new projects also being signed. There is also an economic stimulus package from the government, and also the government is actually reviewing a total of 4 trillion pesos worth of projects that they consider a priority as well. Short-term focus for the government was obviously towards relief and mitigation, but they are well aware that the construction and infrastructure is the main pillar, or one of the main pillars for the economy, and will play a very important role for the economy to bounce back. Considering that, the government is also encouraging the private sector to do private and public partnerships, and also helping in a way with liquidity matters. For example, the Banco Central has cut the policy rate and the lender reserve requirement ratio, increasing liquidity that can help also investment in this sector. It is important also to mention that the sector has certain restrictions when it comes to the workforce. For example, in the construction sites, workers must be of age between 21 and 59 without pre-existing conditions. They cannot travel, so there has to be some sort of accommodation provided also to these workers, and many other safety and health considerations. We see again that this sector is coming back, and we have seen a lot of positions on demand. So the usual project managers is in high demand, site managers, operations managers, business development managers, design managers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and other engineering related positions. Moving on to a little bit more property management and real estate, more or less the same. So liquidity could have been an issue, hence we are encouraging, the government is encouraging also businesses to prioritize cash and liquidity. For when it comes to landlords, they are starting to be a bit more flexible when it comes to payment structures to support tenants and customers. And also we see that they are using also online sales, supporting also the physical offices. Land values are expected to decline a little bit. So we could estimate that the fourth quarter will have a decline of 10% for land values in Bonifacio and in Makati, and for Bay Area would be around 15%, and in Ortigas would be around 5%. For the office leasing, the same at around 17% for Metro Manila. So yes, it's declining, but it is still high and high in demand. Okay, and we can see that some positions also continue to be high in demand, like property managers, security asset protection managers, and computerized maintenance managers, for example, amongst others. I hope that we have today with us Mario Glenn Isik, who is the Vice President of Human Resources of San Jose Builders. Actually, he would be the best person to give us a little bit more insights on real estate and building construction, because he knows a lot, and the talent acquisitions that he considers important, the most important points. So I will just give the floor to him, to Mario Glenn Isik. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me to talk to the group, at the same time to introduce our organization. Our organization is New San Jose Builders Inc. So let me give a brief background about our organization. So our organization, we are a construction industry, at the same time a real estate industry. Then we have other business units. We have commercial leasing, then we have also a sports complex. We have a university, Manuel L. Quezon University, then resorts and hotel. I'm sure most of you here are familiar with Las Casas Filipinas de Acuzar. So that's owned also by New San Jose Builders Inc. But for this afternoon session, I'll be focusing more on construction and real estate. So for our setup currently, actually, even before lockdown, before ECQ, we have a lot of requirements when it comes to money in construction side, because we have new coming, we have existing 4 projects that we are putting up. At the same time, we have new 4 projects that we're going to put up in different locations here in NCR. The challenge for us, and based on our HR procedures and based also on our interviews, we found out that most of our applicants, they only stay in constructions industry or in their company for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Now, these applicants, they applied also in other industry, and actually even in our company, there are people, they are resigning, then they transfer also in same industry, in another company. So it seems to us, the applicants, it's like going around only in different companies. So it seems that it is a trend in the construction industry or even in real estate. Then we did a salary survey based also on the industry that we have in construction, because we are thinking that these our existing employees, they might be transferring to other organizations because they are receiving less or probably in our benefits. Then upon checking, we have the same, actually we give higher compared to other organizations. But of course, it depends on the organization. Then it seems, so based on that survey, we realized that actually it is a trend in our industry that people, applicants, they keep on jumping from one organization to the next or to other organization. Then during lockdown or during ECQ, actually there is a stoppage of operations in our construction. So with this, we subjected number of candidates or number of employees to a floating status. So under law, we are allowed to do that for the rank and file. But for the key positions, top management, so still they are employed by us. So right now, with the new normal setup, we are still in need of different skills. So we are trying to check in the market if we can get number of applicants, number of candidates with particular skills that we are looking in the construction industry. Then we realized that because of the trend that the people or candidates or employees keep on jumping from one organization to another, there is no particular or specific skills that they are good at. For example, in our organization, we are looking for somebody who are really good in cost monitoring, or we are looking for a candidate good in formworks, or in electrical, or in mechanical. Apparently, there is no specific candidate that really fit on that requirement that we have. So hopefully through these sessions and through Monroe, the organization can help us also to locate or to at least to get a good candidate. Then hopefully with this new normal setup also, we are interviewing different applicants through digital setup. And the problem of the construction, we really need to meet them in person. We really need to, because there must be an actual testing or actual interview with the person. So for me, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mario Isaac. I will be transferring now the floor again to Monica. Kindly go ahead.
Thank you very much. So last of the sectors would be chemical, before we get into the sectors that will rise very soon. So chemical has shifted a little bit also. If you understand, chemical produces products that we use every day, okay? So it's very extensive. But we can see that some of the products have not been doing well, or towards some industries that have not been doing well, like automotive and transportation and consumer goods sectors have reduced the demand for chemicals, but also others have increased. For example, demand for pharmaceuticals, food additives, disinfectant obviously has increased. So two things have happened in the chemical sector. One, that to avoid the disruption in terms of supply chain due to import-export problems, chemical industry is getting closer to end consumer. And on the other side, they are shifting towards product lines that also are in demand right now. So the talent is also shifting towards these lines, okay? I would like to jump now into industries that actually will rise very soon, okay? And I will start with the beauty industry, because the beauty industry, as we know, has been affected because we were all at home. So beauty analysts understand that the customers have put off cosmetic purchases, but this will spike very soon. As we start to go out, you want to look good, and not only cosmetics, but also when it comes to salons and beauty treatment facilities, this industry will have a spike very soon. Another one could also be, next slide please. Yeah. Another one could be definitely medical devices and digital health. So we see that the demand for devices and medical equipment is skyrocketing right now. If we think about it, we see that a lot of hospitals and clinics are also modernizing right now, hence they will need new and modern equipment as well. So medical devices will create employment as well during this period of time. On another side, we also see that there is a real effort from the part of hospitals, clinics, and also the government to shift to a more innovative way to provide healthcare services and to get the public or the patients and the doctors closer through online technology as well. So digital health, telemedicine will also be rising and is rising during this period. And next and final would be the insurance sector, because as we can see, as per the Swiss COVID-19 APAC consumer survey, the customers are also transforming their views when it comes to the insurance products and the coverage that they want. And it is little surprise that the life and health insurance requests or demands are increasing after the COVID outbreak. Hence, insurance sector will have a chance or is seeing that they have a chance during this recovery or during this pandemic situation, and hence there are some talent acquisition implications. So we see hiring demand of insurance agents, insurance advisors, and as well as wealth managers as well. So this would be it for me for when it comes to industries that were thriving, that took a hit, and then will rise soon. I really hope that this was interesting. And now I would like to actually focus a little bit more into recruitment and have George Samako, who is actually a senior consultant of client management in Monroe Consulting Group, to speak about the benefits, obviously, of recruitment. So the floor is yours, George.
Hi, I'm George. I'm the Senior Business Developer and Client Management Consultant of Monroe Consulting Group. Basically, I'm in charge of managing the existing clients of our company as well as bringing in new clients for the company. So I'm here to share the benefits of recruiting at this point. Next slide, please. So why hire now? Before the pandemic, according to statistics, 17% of professionals are active job seekers and 80% are passive. But after the pandemic, it has shifted from around 20 to 25% active job seekers. This means that if you had roles that were quite difficult to hire before the pandemic, they're quite easier to find now because there's a surplus of talents available out there. But if you still want to focus more on passive candidates, candidates that companies are willing to retain in their companies because they have the right mix of attitude and skill sets, it's better to start recruitment now. And actually, in Monroe, we are the company that facilitates connecting you with these kinds of individuals through the talent mapping technologies that we use to understand people mobilities in the market, as Monica presented in her presentation. Also, with the new with the COVID situation, companies are more open to get people that are not physically present, because culture can be built even if new employees are not physically present in the company. And you might want to consider that for some positions that would be valuable to your organizations, that would be a strategic hire, they might not necessarily be physically present. They might be remote workers for your company. And hiring these individuals would make or break your company in terms of adapting to the new normal. Now, with changes with regards to how companies recruit, right now, hiring managers are more open to screen candidates, not on the traditional way of inviting them for physical interviews and having panel interviews. Right now, they're very open to online screening and conference calls just to check if it's the right talent out there. But in Monroe, we actually help our clients by extending our recruitment management platform, wherein you can approve, reject, you can rate them for competency to help you manage this recruitment process. And at this time, given the case that people can be actually be screened through online, we can actually be more cost efficient in terms of managing the whole recruitment process. In a sense that you don't have to actually ask them to commute to go to to your offices. So let's start recruiting now. Next slide, please. If you wait until your company comes back online to start filling empty roles, and or you wait for your freeze hiring to be lifted, by that time, some of the good individuals that are currently employed might have shifted to your competitors already. So if you remember, if you're getting a passive candidate, it would take you around 2 months to actually process candidates, 2 weeks to actually source them, 2 weeks to screen them, and probably 30 days for their resignation period. So it's better to start your hiring now. As Joe Mullins said, a CEO of Mullins Group, which is a recruitment firm that specializes on medical devices, companies have to keep a steady hum on the public domain. They need to be on social media platforms to communicate to their candidates that we're still here. Here's why you want to work with us, and when what we will do when we come back online. So currently, you can promote your company to have proper employer branding. You can also screen people through online means, and you can reference check them with their previous employers to check if they are the right candidate. And by the time that you actually need them post-pandemic, the only thing that you have to do is to extend the job offer and actually have them on board. So that's for my part right now. To elaborate further on how to properly recruit digitally, I'll turn over the floor to Monira to introduce the next speaker.
All right, thank you so much, George, for your insight on the benefits of recruitment during this situation. We would like to re-invite Maria Isabel Bordador. I believe we had a technical difficulty earlier. She would like to conclude her part of the segment. Isa, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hi once again. So I'm very sorry about the technical problem here. So what I was actually saying, and allow me to actually conclude and make it really brief but sweet. So definitely forward, the 20 is critical. Already creating for healthcare employment. It will actually continue to shift the industry as the events unfold. And in fact, there's been a lot of predictions of what the healthcare recruiting and talent acquisition industry may see as a result of the just summarize into. So number one would be, particularly for nurses. Okay? So there will be a high demand, but there will be very. So there is an increase in the demand for healthcare workers, and unfortunately, there's a significant decrease in supply, especially for nurses. In the last time I've checked LinkedIn, nurses were already in high demand even prior to the pandemic. In fact, 6 out of 10 job titles searched by employers in 2019 has been more focused healthcare related, and less is actually the registered nurse. So I think this is a good opportunity also for healthcare industries to really bank on talents, okay, and of course explore other channels. Okay, another issue apart from the demand and supply issue is of course employer. So as what I was saying earlier, in challenging times like 19, the way employers treat their employees before they're treated well by their employer, then definitely the true and employer branches of caring and how flexible they could be, since they can actually leverage on this as people see authentic, and that makes you a great employer. And perhaps for the last point that I want to discuss, which of course, and skewing towards digitization. Companies had transition, virtualization, and probably most of us, even the onboarding process. So, of course, with social distancing and in-place recruitments, companies have to actually pivot and adapt to new way to move candidates through the hiring process. And that means we also had to move towards virtual interviews, virtual hiring events, and even career fairs. And of course, generally accelerating the onboarding process. So let me just conclude that to me personally, my opinion in the sector, health industries will definitely stay since this pandemic has, and many companies will continue to transition to online. Okay, and of course we have to embrace that fully. I mean, presentations, meetings, screenings have been done remotely, and in fact, many of us have been remotely working from home. And I think that will be the end, even recruitment. Okay, so thank you for. So I guess that's all for me. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isa, for concluding and giving again your insight on the healthcare sector. Rather, we are now going to move the floor to Jerry Amores to discuss it briefly. Digital recruitment. Jerry, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ning, and to all our attendees, thank you so much for staying tuned. Welcome to the last part or the last topic of our webinar today. In order to continue your recruitment in this new normal setup, Monroe Consulting presents you the simple step-by-step process on how this new normal recruitment is done through digital recruitment. So I am Jerry Amores, Monroe's Head for Professional Services, your presenter for this last topic of our webinar. But before diving into the first step, let us define what digital recruitment is. So the process of digital recruitment can be defined as a way of leveraging technology, sourcing, assessing, attracting, selecting, and recruiting candidates for open positions. It includes everything like career websites, leveraging job boards, recruiting through mobile, social hiring, and online assessments. So digitize So the first process would be pre-recruitment planning. The step one, which is this pre-recruitment planning, is readjusting recruitment plan during the global pandemic COVID-19. Most of the information shared by my colleagues and our guest panelists are part of this step. So first one should be identifying the impact of the pandemic to your organization and what resources will be required to restore progress. Understand the impact of the quarantine and shut down to their operations. You have to identify the priorities to recover and develop a contingency plan to support businesses once it resumes operation. Very important to determine which aspect of the operation should increase and how much is needed to compensate the days that were lost to start the recovery phase. The last part of the pre-recruitment planning would be building your talent pool and mapping out potential candidates for your organization. Pooling candidates right now is very timely as there are more candidates available in the market. Pooling may not help you at this moment, but will be beneficial for your future needs. Mapping out these candidates will give your organization a better understanding of a specific talent market. So once candidates are identified, HR professionals should begin their recruitment plan to secure the candidates through advertisements and or agencies. It is very also important to start interviewing candidates that will meet future needs. The recruitment process itself takes time and can be very lengthy. Interviewing now for your future vacancies gives you more time to assess candidates. It also gives you the luxury of having options. This saves you from the hassle of recruiting from scratch. So when the vacancy becomes urgent, it saves you from hiring the wrong people due to, of course, its urgency. Next. So moving on to the next step would be candidate qualification. Qualifying candidates starts in the sourcing process. Social recruitment or social media recruitment is not a traditional way, although it is already being used as an option pre the COVID situation. Now more than ever is the perfect time to make the most out of it. Social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn prove to be the fastest medium for sharing information. By sharing your new vacancies with the mass audience, you might just find that needle in the haystack through social networking. Always remember that your network equals to your net worth. So did you know that in a second, there are over 1 million shares and likes around the globe? So meaning to say, this social media platform really is very important and is helpful during this time of needs. So in social recruitment, social media provides room to screen candidates for their characters and social interests. Social recruiting is a terrific way to gain information about your potential hires that would fit your organization's culture and ecosystem. This could also be a terrific strategy for organization to retain their potential hires by ensuring common culture and characters of their team. So one tip that I can give you guys is to send the message intent without sending them friend requests, so you are not violating their privacies and personal lives. Next slide. So another for the candidate qualification, before you invite candidates for the interview, you must work extra hard to qualify them against your job requirements. Since this new normal recruitment will be more digital, it is very important to screen out candidates properly from the very beginning. Value your time as precious and choose only to invite people that you believe you might hire successfully. Question hard on an initial telephone screening to rule people out rather than booking in everyone you identified during a search. So in a candidate qualification, so there are two steps that we use here in Monroe Consulting to qualify these candidates prior to booking an interview with them. First one would be resume screening. The next one would be phone conversation. I have here tips for initial phone conversation. The first one would be checking the level of seriousness and commitment of the candidate. It is very true that during the lockdown period, there has been several candidates exploring due to fear and anxiety. It is very important that we process candidates who are in the right mindset of exploring. Why? Because these candidates would stay longer in your organization. And these candidates are driven by their needs and also by their intent to move to another company, not just by the worry that comes with the current situation. Next will be explaining the recruitment process and the next step. So there will be changes in the way interviews will be done to adapt to their current situation. It is important to explain these changes to set candidates' expectation. So of course, qualification is done by someone in the company, usually your recruitment team or human resources team, prior to the actual interview with the hiring manager or decision maker. Next would be the interview itself. Interview preparation includes all the things necessary to conduct the interview. Traditionally, interview is done face-to-face. However, the new normal will make it difficult. Of course, we all know that we need to practice physical distancing. Apart from that, it will be difficult for candidates to travel to your office. There will be no transportation available somehow. But virtual interview must be considered at all interview stages. There is a lot of reluctancy in conducting video interview instead of face-to-face. Why? Because there are a lot of clients as well who are inexperienced in conducting face-to-face interview. However, if this virtual or video interview is done properly, it does not change any result in the interview process. There are a lot of tools that we can use to conduct video interviews. We have here Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Zoom, which we are currently using, WhatsApp, GoToMeeting. We also have Viber. Sometimes we can also use Facebook Messenger to conduct interviews. It doesn't matter what medium or what tool is used to conduct video interviews, as long as it is the preference of your organization, and also that tool is also present or available on the candidate side. So more on the interview, I have here video interview preparation tips. One would be making sure that candidates and interviewers are dressed for the interview. So since most of them are working in the comfort of their home, still they need to look professional and if they're attending to a face-to-face, be testing the internet and 5 minutes before the call that they have to log in. In terms of recording interviews, you have to, or recording the video interviews, you have to ask the consent of the candidate first if you're going to do it. Next would be making sure that both are in a quiet place to avoid distractions. Then share expectation, timelines, names of interviewers, and other things that could prepare the candidate. Next. Okay, so these are just now tips on how to effectively conduct a video interview. I will just be moving through this quickly for us to go to another slide. So one is practicing a compelling or virtual only compelling fit. Then would be you have to ask the candidate for feedback about the process, about what happened to the interview itself. Be very as bit as professional and personable as you would be for an on-site interview. Follow up with a thank you note, a request for feedback, and next step. Finally, use your post-interview note to tell your candidate about the next steps. So just to wrap up this section of the webinar, so I will just be moving on to the behavioral and situational interview, just very quickly. So behavioral interviews and situational interviews are the most effective way to conduct these virtual interviews. We can give you some materials after this webinar in order for you to help or to conduct a behavioral and situational interviews. We can also conduct another webinar that is only focused for behavioral and technical interview. And that would be the end of my slide. That concludes everything for the last topic. I hope you all picked up some useful tips and techniques that will help you in the new normal way of recruitment. Thank you all for watching, and I will now give the floor, or rather the screen, to Munira for the Q&A portion.
Thank you again so much, Jerry, for an excellent presentation on readjusting recruitment to fit the current situation. As he said, the floor is now open for the live Q&A segment. And it seems we have a few questions that have come in during the webinar, as well as a couple of questions that have been asked during, or rather submitted during registration. I guess we can start with the first question that was rather submitted. Let us see here for the, I guess we can start with this question to Monica. Can you help us, give us some tips on sustaining or sustaining loyal employees? This is coming from a private company and he's head of corporate. Go ahead, Monica.
I guess that they are asking about retaining. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So I guess that the question was rather retaining employees right now. We have not seen in general, I don't know in this particular company, but we have not seen in general a trend for a high rotation right now. Because of due to uncertainty, actually we see a little bit the opposite. I would say that a lot of employees are remaining in the workplace, and we have seen a little bit of resistance also from some candidates to move due to the uncertainty. So I would twist a little bit, if you don't mind, this question, and I would say that actually employers need to provide certainty and secured options for new employees to join. So I think it's in the phase of onboarding that it's important to secure new employees and to make them understand that it is a permanent position, that obviously this is for the long term, etc., to avoid any fears. I hope that I answered.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Monica. Just sifting through more questions right now. I think somebody had asked if we could briefly repeat the strategy for restaurants and food industry.
Mm-hmm. So this goes to me, I guess, as well. So the food and drink industry, especially restaurants, they are diversifying the line of business that they have. So usually it was going to the restaurant, right, and you were served the food. However, right now it's a bit difficult now. So many restaurants, what they are doing is opening to an online line of business by opening online shops, but also offering menus online. So the delivery also is supporting these businesses as well. And also restaurants are now preparing for the new normal, and we see a lot of restaurants, for example, one renowned chef, Chile Philippines, they are already preparing private rooms that are very safe, so Filipino families can gather together in these private rooms in the near future with the certainty that all safety standards are in place.
All right. Thank you again, Monica, for that. I think we have a relevant question towards the health industry. I believe this can be directed to Isa. The question that has come in is, what are the techniques of other healthcare companies since there is no person-to-person detailing? Over to you.
Yeah, well, for this one, actually, as what I have also mentioned earlier, we have transitioned a lot of our processes to digitization. In fact, we have introduced the cord life mobile and better course actually, of course, make use of technology. Right? We've been doing a lot of our meetings and conferences online by Google Meet actually, and I think that the challenge right now is for companies to actually transition because they've been struggling. A lot of HR departments have been struggling with talent management, right? And probably the best practical advice that I can give, I mean, regardless of whatever industry you are into right now, is for the business to rethink the approach in order for them to succeed. I mean, talent management is really the key, and talent management is basically, I mean, you're rethinking your business operations from recruitment to retention, and more importantly, how you develop your people. But again, that includes how your company practices are right now. So I think you really have to register for them to access whatever you have, whether it's a tool, strategy, make it easy for them to access. So we have to fully embrace technology in whatever we do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Isa, on answering that really great question. We have another question that has come in as well. I believe this can be directed to Ms. Jennifer Tan. With the fact that there is a sharp increase in online transaction, is there a possible risk of data integrity? Or this could be directed either to, Jennifer Tan or Mr. James Alanto.
Yeah, I just have a short answer to this question. Yes, I think in fact, whether or not there is an increase, yes, definitely, the issue of data integrity is always relevant, and so I think we are now we have a very good opportunity now to strengthen also our systems and also the way that we guard personal information that we get hold of. And there really is a very urgent need to secure and make sure that the company is data compliant. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jennifer Tan. And I believe Mr. James Alanto, I think you can also answer this question. Is there a possible risk to data integrity? Hello, James?
Hello.
Yes, there we go.
Sorry, with regards to the issue of data security, from what we say is that you're always just as good as the weakest link. So our central bank has always been very strict with regards to policies in terms of payments, in terms of online transactions. And I guess it is when it comes to digital security, it is actually everyone's responsibility. So it's always a shared responsibility with regards to the data that you have. Of course, we've been hearing cases, for example, of unauthorized transaction, but in the end, it's always becoming really prudent with how we are taking care of all of this security data that we have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. I hope you were able to give your very brief insight on that. I think we still have room for one more question that I believe all speakers can answer this. Do you see any hesitation on the part of the candidate to move to another employer amidst this uncertain situation, considering there were people who were laid off by some companies and some that are less tenured? Feel free from any of the speakers to answer this.
So I think it's a little bit in line with the previous or second question. I think that there is some hesitation because obviously because of the situation, you want certainty, you want something secured. Hence, many employees may actually be a bit conservative when it comes to moving at this period of time. But this depends on also companies and employers. If you are able to have a good conversation with a potential client or a candidate of yours, I think that easily you can secure or you can give confidence to these new employees. So I think it's a conversation that needs to happen between employees and employers.
All right, thank you, Monica. And with that, we conclude our first webinar, Monroe Consulting Group's first webinar. But before we end everything, thank you so much to our esteemed guest speakers for taking the time once again to speak and give their insights and answer the questions during the session. If any one of you out there would like to know more about what Monroe Consulting does as a company, feel free to reach out to any of the individuals that you see on the screen. We will also be, we still have a lot of questions that are still coming in, and we will be proactively answering that and sending it to the respective questionnaires. With that in mind, thank you again for